Madam President, it is an honor for me to once again update this esteemed Council on the situation in Darfur, the work of UNAMID, and in particular, the mission's reconfiguration and drawdown process. Detailed information of these issues is contained in the report of the Secretary General of UNAMID S 2018/912 of 12 October 2018 for the period from 11th June to 8th of October 2018. Madam President, with the adoption of the Resolution 2429 on the 13th of July 2018, we have embarked in earnest on the mission's reconfiguration and drawdown. In accordance with the joint special report of the AU Chairperson and the UN Secretary General's report, we are in the process of relocating the mission's headquarters from El Fasher to Zalinje, and also the JSR, the Joint Special Representative, to Khartoum. The mission, together with the UN Council team in Sudan, are in the process of finalizing the concept of the state liaison functions, which will facilitate collaboration for the duration of the mission's transition and eventual exit. The mission is on course to reduce the military component by 3,265 personnel by December 2018 and another 1,420 personnel by 30 June 2019. The police component will remain an overall strength of 2,500 personnel. The military component will continue to maintain its presence in the redefined areas of responsibility in the greater Jebel Marra area, focusing on traditional peacekeeping functions while maintaining the flexibility to respond in the rest of Darfur when the situation demands. Concomitant with the reduction of the military, the abolishment of 1,184 civilian personnel positions by 30th June 2019 is being finalized. This comprises 189 international, 935 national, and 60 United Nations volunteer positions. If approved by the budgetary bodies, the proposed abolishment will be undertaken in 3 phases. 385 positions to be abolished by effective 31st December 2018, 89 positions to be abolished effective 31st March 2019, and 710 positions abolished by the end of June 2019. Commensurate with the troop and staff reduction, 5 teams are proposed for closure in October 2018, 3 in November 2018, 2 in December 2018, and 3 sector headquarters, Nyala, El Dain, and El Janin, by 30th June 2019. We continue to monitor the impact on the security and protection of civilian situations in areas from which UNAMID has withdrawn. So far, we have not witnessed any adverse impact. Madam President, as required by the mission's 2-pronged approach to its operations, UNAMID and United Nations agencies, funds, and programs have engaged the government of Sudan in the finalization of the transition concept for areas outside the greater Jebel Marra area. The concept is based on a holistic UN system collaboration through joint analysis, planning, and delivery, with the aims of achieving stabilization in order to avoid relapse into conflict. As you may recall, as described in the joint special report of the UN Secretary General and the AU Commission Chairperson, This concept envisaged that common UN system state liaison offices be established in the capitals of North Darfur, South Darfur, East Darfur, and West Darfur states. Accordingly, UNAMID and the UN country team have agreed on elements of concept of state liaison functions that envisages the joint delivery of programs to build on the efforts undertaken by UNAMID over the years. The state liaison function concepts provides a common understanding between UNAMID and UN country team on the way ahead during the 2-year transitional period. Madam President, this August gathering today will also be considering realistic and available exit benchmarks in accordance with UNAMID's redefined priorities of protection of civilians, monitoring and reporting of human rights, and the facilitation of humanitarian assistance, mediation of intercommunal conflict, other local conflict and measures to address root causes, and mediation between the government of Sudan and non-signatory movements. You will have noticed that details of these well-defined benchmarks and the progress made towards the achievement of UNAMID strategic priorities are provided in the report of the Secretary General on UNAMID's S2018/912 of the 12th October 2018. It is noteworthy that the new set of indicators for these proposed benchmarks reflect the positive changes in the security situation in Darfur in particular and in Sudan in general. These indicators are not only realistic, measurable time-wise, they are government of Sudan centered as ultimately the government is responsible for the provision of basic services to its citizenry in Darfur. Madam President, I'm pleased to report, as the Secretary General reports of the past several months have indicated, that the current situation in Darfur remains relatively calm and peaceful, with the exception of pockets in the Jebel Marra area where armed conflicts between government and rebel forces continue. In addition, there is a low-level intercommunal clashes reported. However, despite all this progress, UNAMID has recorded an increase in tensions between herders and farmers, mainly IDPs and retainees, over land and resources. Council may also take note that for the first time, SLA Abdul Wahid also declared a 3-month unilateral ceasefire from 20th September to 18 December 2018 to allow unhindered humanitarian access to areas affected by landslides in Jebel Marra. However, on the 20 to 21st September, the Sudan Armed Forces reportedly attacked SLA Abdul Wahid positions in Sabon, El Fag, Gur Lumbong, Quila, and Amara, all allocated area in the area northeast of the CAS team site in South Darfur. 3 SLA Abdul Wahid members were reportedly killed between 12 and 14 October. Infighting broke out between 2 factions of SLA Abdul Wahid in 2 villages located some 2 kilometers east and northeast of the Golo temporary operating base over differences over participation in the signing of a peace agreement with the government of Sudan. The infighting resulted in 8 deaths. The situation in both villages remains tense. I wish to put on record that during the recent mudslides disasters in the Tugele area of Jebel Marra, a joint UNAMID and UN country team which delivered Humanitarian, received the cooperation of the government of Sudan and that of the SLA Abdul Wahid elements in the areas under their control. I must note, however, that despite the improved security situation, there is continuing concerns amongst IDPs over systematic attacks, assaults, farm distractions, harassments, land occupation issues, and livestock theft. During this period, 6 intercommunal clashes over the land and livestock, resulting in 18 fatalities, were reported. UNAMID continues to focus on early warning, preventive measures, capacity building, and efforts to address the root causes of the conflict in collaboration with the government authorities, UN country team, community leaders, and relevant institutions. Madam President, humanitarian partners continue to provide assistance to people in need across the 5 states of Darfur, despite limited resources, challenges in accessing some areas in Jebel Marra localities in South and Central Darfur, to ongoing clashes and the rains which have rendered some roads impassable and results in civilian displacement and destructions of homes and assets in West, South, and Central Darfur. Details of the numbers of vulnerable people who received assistance, those who were displaced during the reporting period, and those who were verified and registered are contained in the report that we have referred to of the Secretary General and the Chairperson of the African Union. Madam President, human rights concerns will continue to be an appropriate benchmark to which the government of Sudan, UNAMID, UN country team, and the international community must seriously address. During the reporting period, there was a decrease in the number of new cases of human rights violation and abuses, with UNAMID documenting 134 new cases involving 304 victims compared to 169 cases involving 508 victims during the period of 16 February to 10th June 2018. These violations are largely assaults, killings, criminal activities, abductions, sexual and gender-based violence, thereby creating a hostile environment in and around IDP camps. Our focus should be on building the capacity of the government of Sudan to deal squarely with these challenges and to discharge its primary responsibility of protecting civilians and IDPs, providing security, addressing lack of confidence in reporting cases to authorities, and lack of adequate law enforcement authorities, and inability to provide basic social services. UNAMID continues to work with the government of Sudan in building capacity for members of the criminal justice chain to ensure effective discharge of their duties. I wish to inform you that preparations are underway to start a constructive discussion with the government of Sudan on the need to establish, as called for by the UN Security Resolution 2429, a country office of the High Commissioner of Human Rights in Sudan. Madam President, the implementation of the Doha Document for Peace in Darfur, the DDPD, continues, albeit at a slow pace, undermined by capacity and resource-related constraints. A board meeting of the Darfur Internal Dialogue and Consultation Projects was held in Khartoum on the 13th August, during which it was decided to extend the project until 31st December 2018. The meeting noted that funding and the ongoing UNAMID reconfiguration are major challenges to the process. On the 23rd September, I met the commissioners of the DDPD commissions in Khartoum and discussed the way forward towards the full implementation of the DDPD. The commissioners agreed on the need to explore other funding opportunities and ways of bringing more donors on board. This meeting was a follow-up to the recommendation of the 13th meeting of the implementation of follow-up commissions on July 11 in Doha, Qatar. In my capacity as Joint Chief Mediator, I have continued to engage with the government of Sudan and the non-signatory movements, SLA, Minawe, and Jem Jibril, in support of the African Union High-Level Implementation Panel, to bridge their differences so that they could agree on and sign a pre-negotiation framework which would facilitate the signing of a cessation of hostilities agreement and resumption of political negotiations based on the AU-HIP roadmap. Engagements with the non-signatory movements is continuing. I continue to appeal to the movements and the government to engage in earnest in the finalization of the negotiations. I shall continue in collaboration with the AU-HIP and the government of Qatar to exert pressure, hopefully leading to successful conclusion of the roadmap. We have received extensive support from the German government and the Beggarhouse Foundation and the US and the British government. Madam President, I briefed recently the African Union Peace and Security Council on 19 September, informing that all efforts to bring the leaders of the Sudan Liberation Army, Abdul Wahid Noor, into the peace process have so far failed. I urge the Council to consider stern action against the SLA leader because from all accounts, he prefers belligerence and armed struggle to cessation of hostilities and a political process. It is highly unlikely that he will change this position anytime soon. The Security Council may wish to consider what actions it would take against the SLA leader. I thank you for this position, Madam President. Thank you.